Hi, it's been a while. My name is Zach, and today I want to talk about Fictional Prejudice. Touchy subject. So I've had a bit of a frequency illusion about this one, I think. I've just been seeing it everywhere. It's a common position I see, at least in the amateur media criticism hubs that I inhabit online. It's kind of poppy. These aren't professionals, they're just people. They're probably children. Or worse, man-children. I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about why I disagree with the pervasive position I see in these communities. The argument is straightforward enough. A lot of fictional stories accidentally support bigotry, and that's bad. Consider the X-Men. I love the X-Men compared to other comic book characters because they don't feel like they have superpowers to me. Instead, it feels like they have curses, and they find a way to circumvent them to benefit the world. Spider-Man has powers. He's strong and nimble and smart and shoots webs. And he's complicated because he's got his whole responsibility thing, but that's separate from his powers. Superman is cool, he's got powers, All these dudes, their complexity comes from other stuff. But Cyclops actively suffers from his vision. Jean Grey has unbridled power and the capacity to remake truth as she wants, and she's just a person. She can't direct all of that in a controlled way. Wolverine has incredible longevity and health, but at the cost of a life of connections. He's an immortal man who can't find love. Angel probably really struggles with doors or something. Now, not all of them are great examples, but my point is that the X-Men, to me, felt cool because they were freaks, not heroes. Spider-Man didn't feel like he needed to go to a school to master his powers. He just had this gift and then started using it, and it felt plausible the way he did it. But I think someone like Beast should have a place to stay that's safe and dignified, where he can understand himself better. A mutant has a condition, a superhero has powers, and these characters are discriminated against. They're shunned by society and feared and hated, and this leads to some interesting drama. Because what if you're a mutant and you don't know it? There are comics where someone awakens their mutant power during puberty, changing drastically. If you've watched those movies, the bad ones that we pretend are good because without them they wouldn't ever have gotten the good ones. Yeah, those ones. You remember how Angel is so disgusted with himself when he starts growing wings and he tries cutting them out from his back, carving them? It's horrific, and that's cool. Imagine if you were racist and then you turned black. The horror! Not at being black. Let's cut this. But there's a problem here, right? It makes some sense to be bigoted against mutants, doesn't it? Some of these guys control your mind from across the planet. Magneto can, rip your blood out and then throw your body into Earth's orbit or something. If you cut Wolverine off in traffic, there is a possibility that he murders you and then follows your family for 1,300 years to torment them. I think there's a guy who proves hell is real. That's not illegal yet. That's just... I want that thing killed, personally. I'm not saying it's rational. We're talking some crazy, crazy stuff in these comics. There's a kid who wakes up one day and disintegrates everyone around him. He doesn't even know because they die so far away from him. He just sees that nobody's home, and then he walks to school, and then everybody bursts into flames. Dudes like this are just walking around. It would be valid for you to feel scared of that. In Zootopia, a central aspect of the setting is that anthropomorph animals live in a modern world where predators live alongside prey, now able to sustain themselves peacefully. But a critical plot point toys with this idea, the idea of oppression against the predator animals having violent physiology. The film ends with a reveal that they're being drugged feral, but despite this, many people still feel that the film provides too strong an argument in favor of bigotry. If we found out that vampires were real and they ate people, but in the not fun way, but then later we learned how to feed them blood safely, wouldn't you still be untrustworthy of them? You see the idea now of this common criticism of fictional prejudice. We have some fictional world where we've established a symbolic stand-in for a real victimized group targeted by racism, homophobia, short king erasure, whatever. Then, because it's a fantastical work of fiction, we must inject some kind of tension to prolong the drama of the story and heighten excitement. But in doing so, we accidentally provide a valid reason to fear this analog group. Therefore, this writing produces an argument against the equity of the fictional group, and therefore, the real people they allegorize. Let's explain... No, that's alligatorize. Oh, that's so stupid. Let's explain that for someone whose P key is stuck on their keyboard. Having principally paralleled that pretend party to a plausible people, you extend that message into reality. Oh, you got it unstuck at the end there. If the X-Men represent a minority, and then you provide reasons to hate the X-Men, well, you seem to support hatred toward the minority, don't you? And speaking of hatred, it's time for today's sponsor. How many times has this happened to you? You're walking your dog, but you don't have any bags on you. Your crappy, soon-to-be ex-boyfriend Steve used the last of them without telling you, and he took your only car, so you can't get more. But your dog's whimpering, and you know he's gotta get out. You left dog poop in my lawn. Seriously, Sarah, how many times has this happened to you? Dump Steve and pick up after your dog. Thank you. Now that we've established the situation, I want to talk about my connection to these kinds of stories. So, my mom loved comics since she was a kid, and so she showed me the X-Men movies when they came out and had posters of Superman and all that, and so I've always loved comics too. It's not a very hard sell to a kid, you know, show someone in a cape rescuing people, and they're pretty much hooked. And I liked Cyclops a lot, even though my mom was a Gambit fan. But I never liked the Cyclops from the movies. I had to get him from the comics before I came around to him. Cyclops is all about burden. He and his brother were put into the system as kids after he was abused by their father. He was experimented on and he suffered a concussion, and that's what leads to him being unable to turn off his laser vision. Don't correct me about the lasers. I know that one time he technically opens portals to the punching dimension and his eyelids, but I'd rather not explain that to the normal people right now. They don't want to hear that. And also, I want to emphasize, that was like a little bit. That was, most of the time, it's lasers. So you need to relax on bringing that up all the time. It's very annoying. Anyway, Cyclops is a leader, but he's also a young adult growing into the role. He's got good instincts and a pure heart and unwavering strength of character, but he is still learning. When Captain America makes a stand, you know he's right. I mean, because he's the freaking captain of America or something. But when Cyclops makes a judgment, there's a real tension in my chest because he could actually be wrong. And there's lives on the line, not just his team, villains too, and civilians and optics, pun intended. Cyclops is a vulnerable person under pressure, and he's damn good, but he is not the best, and he faces serious contradiction from Wolverine and Professor X. If you're used to the movies only, you'd probably think the Professor is pretty chill, but in the comics he is regularly arrogant and micromanaging sometimes. And I guess you would be too if you could read minds. Cyclops doesn't have an easy team to manage, and he's not the highest ranking person in his faction. Leaders of other teams, Black Bolt, whose real name is Blackagar Boltagon, that's not a joke, or like Captain America, you know, these are paragons. They're more like moral obelisks than people. Cyclops is a dude who loses, who represses his trauma and has a compulsive need to keep his people together while considering how they are perceived. But he also has a genuine courage in his heart and a sharp mind, and he knows how to navigate these things with serious success. He feels like a struggling person who succeeds despite the odds. Again, this ties into the X-Men in general. Cyclops is a mutant, he's not a superhero, but that makes him all the more of a hero because of that fight. And I was a kid when I learned this stuff, and so I connected with these characters uncritically, emotionally first, emotionally exclusively. It would be realistic to fear the Iron Giant. But as a kid, staring into its soft glowing eyes, its awkwardly anxious face, its hunched shoulders squeezing together, trying to make itself small, the cautiously outstretched hands, all I could think was how hard this monster was trying to show me that it had a soul. It was scared that I would be scared. I didn't struggle with any dissonance when I consumed this media, but I wasn't trying very hard. I was a kid. So let's take this concern seriously. Maybe we can contradict this argument in universe. Consider Jean Grey, who can turn you into particles, with power so unfathomably immense that her development is in struggling to control it. Would you rather try to kill her? Or would you rather her be raised and trained in a loving community? The last thing I want an all-powerful entity to be is hated, especially because she's not yet all-powerful, and so she has time to understand vulnerability and morality. This thinking permeates the X-Men. So many characters become vengeful in response to hatred, and others face hatred by hardening into heroes. But something I find so fascinating is that those who experience no hatred become neither vengeful nor heroic. They just become people. Normal. The paradise that the X-Men pursue isn't one where they're a superhero team. It's instead one where they're boring. They're heroes right now because they have something to prove societally. Zootopia proves that predators generally live peacefully, and that the world has achieved a comfortable normalcy and equality. The undermining of this status quo is a plot by hateful agents wielding unnatural weapons, proving nothing about nature. The original criticism seems superficially valid. We've established a fictional parallel and provided justification for prejudice, therefore reflecting onto reality. But if we can undermine that justification, well then we're totally good, right? But this feels unsatisfactory to me. Hatred is stupid. It's frankly foundationless. That's what makes it hate. If it were reasonable, it would be called something else. A YouTube comment, perhaps. Hatred is different because it is the feeling, the conclusion, and it seeks justification secondarily. If you confront a racist with explanations and evidence, well, they'll just ignore it. The hate comes first. These fictional resolutions I've provided are insufficient, because within this fictional verisimilitude, we've failed to actually deny hatred. The bigots would still hate, right or wrong. We've only provided a conversation, and that alone is enough to propagate hate. It's why you're not supposed to publicly debate a racist or anything like that. All that does is provide a platform and then imply to the gullible viewers that there's anything at all to even say on the matter. What if we reflect instead on the nature of fiction? After all, this world isn't real. We can create a fiction that's totally fine and yet reflects into reality something terrible. The two don't need to align in purpose. Consider a damsel in distress. In reality, you should save people. It doesn't matter what the dynamic is at play, it's good to help someone in danger. But art isn't real. The artist controls the situation and so decides who is kidnapped and who saves. When you tell a story about a male knight saving a female princess, well, obviously he's a good person within his fictional setting, but it reflects into higher reality the creator's flaws. Not necessarily from a single example, make one thing and who cares. But if you look around and every story is just male knights saving female princesses, well, that's telling. That reveals something larger. The X-Men aren't real. And the differences between a mutant and a real person are pretty big. While it's true that they are meant to represent themes of oppression, thereby paralleling the disadvantaged, they shoot laser eyes. The very arguments used against them are completely nonsensical in real life. Reflect on how far this fiction must stretch reality to provide its bigots with any justification at all. Cyclops can blow your move off, and yet, good lord, in real life, people hate others for their skin, for their attraction, or for their appearance. To a bigot, are these qualities really so similar? Does a racist truly hate an ethnicity in a way that's validated by the same logic applied to someone who can breathe fire or control minds? No, and the disparity between these real and fictional victims is so immense that it highlights the absurd stupidity of hatred. Does a sexist see the difference between carnivore and herbivore as being comparable to the difference between men and women? How could that trait be so meaningful to anyone? Should you reflect on the real world after absorbing these stories and recognize the baselessness of bigotry? Because this writer literally had to give someone lightning powers to achieve anything close to a reasonable argument for hatred. Well, but hold on. This feels a bit better, but it's insane, right? I mean, what kind of paradox logic is this? A fiction that supports a position, accidentally, is so absurd that it actually argues the opposite? Well, this thinking could argue the reversal of any theme in a story. Oh, The Incredibles seems to be about how your individuality is special and important, and how you shouldn't suppress yourself to satisfy a boring world because your gifts build others up. Well, no, actually, because people don't have superpowers in real life, and that's really the main way the story expresses your individual gifts building up others. Well, no, that's silly. I mean, The Incredibles theme is the first thing I said. I'm not restating all that crap. Like what? Is up down now? Well, of course not. We aren't just undermining themes based on the unbelievability of a narrative. No, the unbelievability is a tool. It is a heightening of the themes. What if I apply my new paradox logic to something else? I don't know. How about Frozen? Good lord. I'm not gonna look it up. I'm just gonna go from memory because I think everyone on this planet has seen Frozen 20 times. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think that story's just another love conquers all deal, where Elsa is scared of her power and alienated as a freak, and then she runs off, and that causes some problems. But then her self-fulfilling prophecy is broken by familial love, right? Something like that. Well, can I make the argument that actually this fictional story is so divorced from reality that it says the opposite? Well, no. If anything, its divorce from reality enhances the message. If your siblings' love can support you in a tough time in your life, that's one thing. But Frozen heightens this to cataclysmic scale and says it would still save you. Well, that's how strong love is, Frozen argues. So through this lens, we clarify that my prior logic, it's not paradox thinking, it's instead exaggerative thinking. Familial love conquers all, and it could even conquer a Snow Armageddon banger musical. The world is so bland and controlling that it would suppress your individuality. It would try to do so even if you could turn into a boat. And you still celebrate these heroes, even with their eye lasers, or if they used to eat you in a not fun way. But there's one final albatross on my neck here, now that I've opened Pandora's mixed metaphor. What if bigots enjoy these stories as hate fantasy? What if the provision of a reason at all is already supporting the hatred? Well, I don't think so, and here's why. Hate is emotional. It doesn't engage with themes well, nor does it consider context. Patriots love Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, and the recent Melania film opens with Gimme Shelter. Mary Clayton screams of rape and murder as our nation's First Lady flies on a private jet from her mansion complex. Hate doesn't think, it feels. And these songs feel wondrous. A bigot empathizes uncritically with the tone of what's presented to them, until they realize there's a discrepancy between it and a pre-existing feeling they have, upon which they'll reject the new message. That is to say, a racist would connect with Kitty Pryde. Her specifically. That's a joke for the knowers. And that's why hateful media doesn't focus on the hate. Consider, I don't know, Lady Ballers or American Sniper or something. You know, if you hate trans inclusivity or if you hate Middle Eastern people, well, you don't actually want a movie that shows those people being abused. That's not what you enjoy. No, you'd rather watch a movie where people who agree with you exist in a world where they're totally right, unquestionably, and thoroughly. Because being reminded of a valid point from the opposition just sucks too much for them. Hate doesn't need a reason. It's entirely separate from reason as it is. The rationales provided in works like X-Men, they don't have a seat at hate's table because hate doesn't reside near logic. And so returning attention back to these childish prejudice allegories, we find something that actually is a fantasy, but for the marginalized. When you're a victim, it can be cathartic to see a safe hate. A hate within fiction, where a hero receives this unfair treatment framed in the same way as when they battle with a dastardly villain. You can connect with the heroes, feel the anger, the frustration, and yet feel also their yearning to prove something. And you can watch a flawed role model grow, be so unwaveringly compassionate that they look at someone who hates them and then save them anyway. Because to them, every life matters. Mine and yours too. Even if you don't care about mine, that's just how awesome the idealist hero can be. And that's obviously not realistic. Like, don't do that. You're not Superman or Cyclops. You're not even as cool as Cypher. What, too far? In real life, you should take care of yourself and stay safe. I mean, these people can kill you. Be careful. Further, it isn't your responsibility to teach others, especially when you're just, like, normal. I mean, there are people who specially train to infiltrate and deprogram cultists. There are teachers and educators. There are outreach programs. If you spend your life just living, you're fine. It's unreasonable for a typical person to hold themselves to a high standard of outreach because it just isn't your burden. You can, and that's awesome and good, but you're not wrong for living default. But this isn't real life. It's fantasy. In this fantasy, we have heroes who suffer and rise up. You can watch them grow and develop, vent their anger healthfully, and receive comfort and support from a community that you, in reality, might lack. A victim can watch this and feel empowered, comforted, validated, and the fictional exaggerations serve not to fuel opposition, but instead to highlight the depths of goodness. These fictional bigots have an even better argument favoring their hate, and they're still wrong. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing or something. I'll see you later.